Regular council meeting of Monday, May 26, 2025. I'll now call the meeting to order and read the territorial acknowledgement. We acknowledge that we are in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. Administrative and procedural issues 2.1, approval of the agenda. The motion is that the agenda be approved as presented unless there are any additions or changes. Moved by Councillor Strong, second by Councillor Lockhart. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carried. Thank you very much. I will point your attention to the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act, where members are required to declare a conflict of interest prior to any discussion on the matter. Item 2.3, approval of the minutes. The recommended motion is that the minutes of the April 23rd, 2025 regular council meeting be approved. Can I have a mover for that, please? Moved by Councilor Telling, seconded by Deputy Mayor Gould. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion's carried. The minutes of the March 31st and April 28th, 2025 special county council meetings be approved. Moved by Councillor Lee, seconded by Councillor Fromm. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion is carried. 2.4, business arising. Mr. Harrod, I will now turn it over to you.
Thank you, Your Worship. Business arising is at pages 22 and 23 of Council's information package. Page 22, all 9 items are complete. Stop there and ask if there are any questions on those items.
Seeing none, continue, Mr. Harrod.
Very good. Page 23 is a list of the sort of usual suspects. And they're on this list for a reason. There's complications in getting in one part or another getting them done, but sale of surplus property in Spring Hill and Clark Street, we're awaiting now a survey. Demolition order at 191 McGee. I understand that we've been in contact with the gentleman and that has been expedited. We're waiting for the province on the Swan Creek Protected Wilderness Area designation. The Shaw Rural Housing Development Agreement in Spring Hill, that discussion is ongoing. Your Worship, you've been part of that.
Yes.
And the termination of the lease agreement at Cape Door has been complete and the other work is ongoing. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions on any of that? Go ahead, Councillor Lockhart.
Just a question on the other couple demolitions that we voted on. They haven't happened yet. Just wondering, there was one on South Street, the one out on.
I know that 46 Church Street in in Spring Hill was completed by the property owner, and now that is now level to grade. Can't recall. Al went home sick. What were the other ones? Neither of those is complete, but they're both in process.
Thank you very much, Councillor Lockhart. Anyone else? Hearing none. Item 2.5, public hearings. There are no public hearings scheduled for today. Strategic priorities issues. There are no strategic priorities issues for today, and there are no major organizational items. Organizational policy and bylaw items. 5.1, the pets policy 25-03. Mr. McCracken will lead the way on this one. Go ahead, Peter.
Thank you, Your Worship. Municipality currently has a pets policy at the Dr. Carson and Mary Murray Community Center. But as discussed at the Committee of the Whole meeting last week, we do not have a policy for other service centers. So we're proposing one, and the policy will establish guidelines regarding the presence of pets in the municipality's service centers and the community center to ensure the safety, health, and comfort of employees, council members, committee members, visitors, and anyone who visits the buildings. In general, it's proposed that pets are not permitted in the service center and the community center, with the exception of service animals that are clearly identified, or in the case of the community center for animals associated with an event taking place on site. That's the gist of it, and there's a recommended motion in your package.
Thank you very much, Mr. McCracken. The recommended motion is the council approve the pets policy 25-03. If somebody would be so kind as to move that. Moved by Councillor Telling, seconded by Councillor Redmond. Any comments or discussion on this? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary minded, motion is carried. Thank you very much. 5.2, second reading of the bylaw to amend the LUB 25-03 to rezone PID number 25182171, which is 15518 Highway 6, Upper Malagash. Mr. Boone, our Director of Development Planning, and I'll turn the floor over to you. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Worship. Good afternoon, members of council, staff, and the public that may be watching. first application before you of the four today. This is actually the second reading of bylaw 2503. So this is the third time that council has seen this application. So I'll be brief on the overview and be happy to answer any questions at the end. So this is rezoning. As we mentioned, we went through the process. Largely residential area. It is fairly rural here, but this is the corner of Highway 6 and the Malagash Road in Upper Malagash, and the plan is to move this from agricultural AG zone to country commercial. And the current use is vacant. There was a home there that was unfortunately destroyed by fire, so it sits vacant. And the proposed use is a takeout restaurant with an automotive service station, as well as public washrooms or restrooms. Next slide, please. Thanks. So these are just some concepts that we did go over in more detail during the public hearing, but just gives you an idea as utilization of the whole lot on the corner. And the plan would be to have a driveway, accessible driveways from both the Malagash Road as well as Highway 6. And those, your worship, would have to be approved by the Department of Provincial Public Works for commercial driveways. Just a refresher, just some pictures that we showed at both the public hearing and the first reading to show this area, a very flat section, a good intersection for commercial development, good grades, good stopping site distances, which Department of Highways will review. And just to the upper right-hand corner, that's just a commercial sign that exists on the corner of the property, actually within the right-of-way. It just gives you an idea of some of the other services in the area, but this does lead it to the need for additional services that they are proposing, or the applicant is proposing. So considerations overall, your worship, members of council. So financial implications, none specific to the municipality obviously, but the opportunity to create some more commercial development will enhance the taxation value on the property, and it's a good chance to enhance some economic development in the area. And with the close proximity to the Colchester municipal border, there's a lot of summer residential properties down that way, as well as in Malagash, so it's a good chance to put those services in play. From an environmental perspective, no particular concerns. Obviously, the property does not have municipal wastewater, so they'd be subject to approval with DOT for on-site sewage systems, and as well as all provincial regulations respecting storage of fuel and oils and any other fluids on site as part of the operation. Anything to do with the Department of Health and respect to food services, that would also be permitted provincially. So from a community engagement perspective, as mentioned, we had the public hearing that was duly advertised per the Municipal Government Act. Hearing notice was provided 2 weeks in advance on April 4th. And when we had the public hearing here with council, it was advertised in the hearing, and a planning notice sign has been posted on the subject property. At the time of the public hearing, as you recall, your worship, members of council, no members of the public spoke on the application. The applicant was not available, but was willing to answer any questions should anything arise, and we had no written submissions in this file. So, your worship, the recommendation is before you. Be happy to answer any questions or clarify any points.
Thank you very much, Mr. Boone. The recommended motion is that council approve second reading of the bylaw to amend the land use bylaw 25-03 to rezone PID number 25182171 15518 Highway 6 Upper Malagash from agricultural zone to country commercial zone. If somebody would like to make the motion, moved by Councillor Redmond, seconded by Councillor Strong. Any questions or comments on this? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Thank you very much. 5.3, second reading of the bylaw to amend the LUB 25-04 to rezone PID 25350869 Blue Sea Road, Malagash Center. Mr. Boone, you have the floor again.
Thank you again, your worship. Similar to the application we just spoke about, this is in the general area in Malagash, but specifically on Blue Sea Road. So I'll just jump to the next slide there. So this is a rezoning, a little different. This rezoning is going from agricultural to the recreation residential zone. So purpose of this rezoning is to put it into the residential building lots. And although the agricultural zone would permit the subdivision of the lots and creation of these, it does allow us to reduce some of the setbacks, especially for accessory buildings. So that's therefore why the applicant made the request for the rezoning. So it will reduce the setbacks with respect to rear and side yards on accessory buildings or any other major building, with the exception of dwellings. Dwelling will still have a setback of 6 meters on the side, but would actually be allowed closer to the rear property lines. So again, this development that's proposed by the applicant could go forward under the AG zone. They're looking at just providing more options when it respects to development of new residential homes. So just a little flavor again, these were presented both in the first reading package, but more importantly during the public hearing. Area is fairly rural. The property does front on a water course, and the most house in the most or closest proximity is a small mini home across the street, but there are some other homes just up from to the north of the property. But for the most part, Your Worship, this land is heavily wooded and it's been overgrown and not used for agricultural purposes for quite some time. So the proposed project, I just like that when they have a development plan in place, we like to show it to council. Proposal 6 large residential lots in the RX zone. They would require on-site sewage disposal systems, as well as the lot requirements actually increase when you go to a rural rec zone. But at this point, we're seeing that the development could occur, as I mentioned, under either zone. So fairly straightforward application, and they're just looking at having more options on reduced side and rear setbacks for certain buildings. So from the implications overall, proposed development would obviously create new taxable lots, so therefore creating opportunity for new home development or new residential development. Obviously supports some of the tourism activities we see in the area and naturally stimulates local economy. So if we can see the previous application creates some more commercial development, this is going to hopefully put some more folks in the area, either full-time or seasonally, to support businesses as well. From an environmental implication, as I mentioned, these properties would require access to on-site sewage disposal systems, so each lot would be reviewed at the permitting stage. The developer, in this case, as you may remember, spoke at the public hearing, and they actually are a surveyor, but they're also a designer for on-site sewage disposal systems, so they understand the process that's before them. One thing we wanted to mention here in the environmental implications might not have been as detailed in the report, but obviously watercourse buffers are required from Golden Brook. So as you saw in the previous development concept, there are 2 lots that front on the brook, and they would be required to meet those setbacks, or sorry, the buffer as per the LUB. And that would all be done at the development permit stage. So again, community engagement, public hearing was duly held and was advertised in accordance with the MGA. And as well, public notification was provided on our website with the required 2 weeks notice. In addition, we provided a public notice was placed in the Chronicle Herald 1 week out, and a planning notice was put on the sign for information for folks in the neighborhood that may be passing by. Staff did receive one member of the public looking for additional information. I did talk about that at the public hearing, but in essence, they were just concerned about adjacent property lines and how that would be managed in subdivision. So I explained to them the subdivision process and the need for a legal survey. So, you know, they understood that the developer was a surveyor, Your Worship, but I assured them that they had to follow the process as a legal registered land surveyor. So that is part of the requirement. And then we did have a second resident make contact after the public hearing. I did speak to them, Your Worship. We did note that in the report that you have in your package. And they were, again, just kind of concerned about setbacks and development in the area. Wanted to see as much of the greenery left in the area as possible, and they did talk a little bit about some wildlife corridors they felt were in the area. However, from our perspective, they seemed satisfied with the conversations I had with them. So, Your Worship, unless there's specific questions or clarity required, happy to answer that or provide more information, but the recommendation for the rezoning is in front of you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Boone. The recommended motion is that council approve second reading of the bylaw to amend the land use bylaw 25-04 to rezone PID number 2535-50869. There seems to be an extra number there. Sorry, wrong one, right? Nope, right one. There seems to be an extra number in that, Mr. Boone. Just for clarity's purposes, I'll leave it with you.
Bear with me, Your Worship.
Is it 2535? Nope, we're good. Okay.
Yep.
Thought we had an extra one there. I was wondering what was going on.
Well, far
Between
be it for me to
140
challenge you on PIDs, Your Worship, but I had that one triple and double checked, so.
I had a couple of pen marks around it, so it
Yeah.
made it a little harder for me to read than it should be, probably.
That's okay.
So between 148 Blue Sea Road and Golden Brook Malagas Center from agricultural zone to residential recreational zone. Do I get a motion by Councilor Redmond and seconded by Deputy Mayor Gould? Any questions or comments? Go ahead.
Thanks, Your
Councilor Lee.
Worship. Just for clarity on page 47, I was just curious, lots 5 and 6 run the opposite direction. I was just wondering about like right-of-way on those, or how does that work?
Your Worship, back to Councillor Lee. So Councillor, the frontage, one lot will still have frontage on the Blue Sea Road and will require approval from the Department of Public Works for a driveway. Currently, our subdivision bylaw allows us to create one lot without frontage, but what normally happens on the subdivision plan, the surveyor will create a right-of-way across the other lot to give them access. So it's probably something we're going to consider in our review of the subdivision bylaw, permitting lots without frontage. But we always strongly recommend, and in most cases, folks aren't going to buy a lot that doesn't have a deeded access to it as part of that. I'd say 99% of the time, the surveyor will put that right away on the plan.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Seeing no other questions, call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Thank you very much. 5.4, first reading, bylaw to amend the LUB 25-05 to rezone multiple PIDs along Wyvern Road and Wentworth Collingwood Road. Director Boone, you have the floor. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. I'm going to slow down a little bit. I know you have some community events to get to, but this one's is first time for council to see it, and just want to make sure there's good understanding before we head to discussions and move towards a public hearing, should that be council's desire. So maybe an opportunity here for a large-scale development that maybe some members of council have heard about and has been some conversation in the community. But we have had a formal application from Bragg Lumber and the Bragg Group to consider the change of these multiple PIDs from rural resource to commercial recreation zone. And look at the proposal is the development of a golf resort and a golf course. So in some ways, Your Worship, it's going to be very similar to what we're going to talk about in Fox Harbor next, but understanding Fox Harbor long since established, but Fox Harbor is a development started from the ground up as we're proposing in this application conversation today. So because there's so many PIDs, Your Worship, and members of council, and it's such a large tract of land, I am more than happy to zoom in, and we can do that again at the public hearing as well. But the proposed rezoning includes the multiple PIDs. We have a whole list of them in the motion, but just to give you a perspective on this is at Collingwood Corner. This property would be overlooked by the original Bragg home, which is now used as a meeting center and a visitor I guess, inn, if you will. So those that aren't familiar with the area, this is in very close proximity to Collingwood Corner, to the fire hall, to Bragg Lumber's main office, as well as to their mill. But also this property fronts along the River Phillips. So CAO and myself were able to visit this site. It's a prime piece of land for this kind of development, and with respect to adjacent uses, I think it's an appropriate request, and I wanted to go through that in a little bit more detail. The only thing that I will highlight is a portion of the property is in the flood hazard zone. You can develop within the flood hazard zone, but there are limitations on what you can do. But within your package, and I'll explain that when we get to a further slide, there will be some conversations around some amendments to the flood hazard zone that will make this a little clearer, if you will. So bear with me. All right, excuse me. So right now the proposal is a combination of developments. So firstly, an 18-hole golf course. Actually said 19 holes before I edited it. And I do know enough about golf to know it was 18, but the 19th hole is the one I would spend the most time at, but that's okay. So servicing here would be on-site sewage disposal systems initially, but I know there may be some conversations with the Department of Environment to look at maybe using a private on-site sewage system that could be considered more central, similar to what we have seen in Fox Harbor. The road development from the public roads access would be approved by the Department of Transportation as a public road intersection, but the roads within the development would be done through the private road network. And so they would be developed per our private road standards, but also would be owned and operated and maintained by the development. The uses, as I said, the 18-hole golf course is one, potentially over a number of years, a number of phases, up to 180 residential building lots. The development before you obviously doesn't show the whole 180, but it's the initial couple of phases. Looking to do an 18 plus or minus RV parking site development. So again, commercial recreation zone is one of the few that would permit that. And again, the idea would be to phase that development in over time. Obviously a restaurant, and they're talking more along the style of a pub restaurant. And I think they used the word English pub, I think what the CAO and I heard. As well as a pro shop, of course, and looking to try to make this season, not just a seasonal, but all around, and looking at doing some Nordic ski trails and hiking trails within the development. So, again, I just reinforce, this is the change, so it's a little hard to see the zones the way they are, but we have all the PIDs listed and highlighted to the left, but the brown highlight would be bringing them into the commercial recreation zone. So again, quite a number of PIDs being transferred over to commercial recreation zone. What we'll likely do in the public hearing is try to do a couple zoom ins on this, just to make it a little easier for the public to see and understand that. So I just want to talk quickly, Your Worship and members of council, about some text amendments that would go with the zoning map changes. We actually have to make a few changes to our land use bylaw, and these are just text changes, so I'll explain them. The one thing I will tell you would be in your report is we can make these text amendments without doing a policy change. So no changes to our municipal planning strategy, which obviously compresses the timeline and doesn't activate the need for the minister to have to review, because we're not doing any policy changes. So first amendment would be section 12.52 of the LUB, and simply within the flood hazard zone, we're going to allow use known as park. And then we're going to define park, because in our land use bylaw, we actually don't define park. So we're going to define that in the LUB section 14 to add the definition you see before you. So essentially what we're doing with the definition is that play surfaces within a golf course would be permitted within the flood hazard zone. Right now, there's the limitations of what can happen within the flood hazard zone or agricultural uses and dwellings and existing dwellings. Now, we do have a few spots where new dwellings can go in the flood hazard zone, but they require certain coastal and elevation and floodplain protection. So simply looking at doing this to allow the fairways, the greens, structures under 20 square meters, which would be normally the buildings that wouldn't require a building permit, and infrastructure necessary for safe and accessible use of the land. So really just looking at the play surface of a golf course being brought into permitted uses within the flood hazard zone. So, implications here, Your Worship, financial implications, none specific to the municipality other than this process. This would obviously support a lot of tourism activity in the area, development of the golf course and the associated RV parking, as well as the home sites, will allow traveling public and, to utilize and stay in the area, but also to stimulate the economy, because we're going to see some new activity, especially when it comes to homes, which obviously is going to increase both the commercial tax base with the clubhouse and the restaurant, but also our overall tax base with new residential development. So environmental implications, I mentioned earlier, discussion around whether it's on-site sewage disposal for individual buildings. They have lots of land, so that I think can easily be achieved, but there is some thought about looking at a private sewage disposal or treatment plant, I should say. And at the subdivision stage, stormwater drainage plans are required in order to enter a servicing agreement with the municipality, as well as all the components of our subdivision bylaw, which I mentioned earlier would include private road design and approval. Portions of the property are subject to the flood hazard zone, as I mentioned. So with the limited development, we've talked about making some of those changes with the text that I just reviewed, but also to note that the Department of Environment is involved with the development because of its proximity to the river, and there will be a number of river crossings for golf carts and golf travel. So those will all have to go through the approval process with the Department of Environment, and the applicant is already having those conversations. So, community engagement, if we move forward in council's desire today to give it a first reading, We will advertise public hearing in accordance with the Municipal Government Act. We'll get the appropriate notices filed on our website, and we'll still look to advertise in the locally circulated paper, and we will place planning notices on the site. So, Your Worship, I understand there's a large list of PIDs here. I'd be happy to answer any questions or provide clarity on any of the points I made, but the recommendation for council in first reading is before you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Boone. That perhaps might have been the longest one yet, to get the descriptions in with all the PIDs and everything else, so thank you
Well,
very
it's a
much for that.
challenge.
It's very challenging, I understand
Yeah.
that, so, yes.
Yeah. The former mayor did it with a big project in Spring Hill, so I have faith in you, Your Worship.
Well, I'm gonna try and read it mostly in one breath if I can, so. The recommended motion is that council approve first reading of the bylaw to amend the land use bylaw 25-05 to rezone PIDS 25084906, 25268236, 25268228, 25268244, 25084880, 25084872, 25251463, 25468307, and 25468257 along Wyvern Road and Wentworth Collingwood Road from rural resource to commercial rec zone. Amend section 12.5.2 of the LUB to add section C, which is parks. Amend section 14 of the LUB to add the definition of park, and furthermore to schedule a public hearing.
Could you repeat that for me?
Not a chance. If I could have a motion moved by Deputy Mayor Gould, seconded by Councillor Lockhart. Any comments or discussion on this?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. I just have a couple of questions. Do you know how many acres total this is?
Go ahead, Mr. Boone.
Did I miss that?
Yeah. Your Worship, back to the councillor. I have to go back and confirm. 237 is in my head, but I'm not sure if that's this one or the next one we're going to talk about.
Okay.
But I will confirm, Your Worship, and make sure I have the answer for prior to the public hearing, and I will advise you by email, councillor.
Thank you. And I just have one further question. All of these PIDs are owned by the same person, I am assuming.
Yes, they're all under the same company name, Your Worship. Back to Councillor Strong.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Councillor Redmond, followed by Councillor Hotelling.
Just a clarification, I've been getting a few calls in regards to this. This is just the rezoning, this is not the development, right? So there'll still be other meetings that we'll have in regards to the development, just so it's on the record for people to know, so they don't.
Go ahead, Mr. Boone.
Yes, Your Worship, back to Councillor Redmond. So, in the planning process, Councillor, I know you're quite familiar, but for the record, first reading is just initiating the process, so the next step, should council approve this today, will be to organize the public hearing and duly advertise, and then staff will obviously answer any questions or bring forward any concerns that are raised by the public, or even just questions that may be raised. So, several more steps, public hearing being one, then council giving consideration at second reading, and there's always the process that there is a required appeal period should council give second reading in the future.
Thank you very much, Mr. Boone. Councillor Redmond?
Could I just clarify something
go ahead.
before you run to that? But Councillor Redmond's question was, will there be further opportunities at council when the development is done? And the answer is no. So once this process is done, the rezoning is complete, and then they'll be permitted, staff would then issue a development permit and building permit and all of those.
Yeah.
So once the first reading, public hearing, and second reading, and the appeal period is complete, that is it. As part of this application, there will be a public hearing, yes.
Absolutely.
That will be the only chance they have to, if they have an issue.
Correct.
Yeah, just to support what the CAO is saying, so once the rezoning is in place, then we're required to follow the process. So building permits and development permits, well, development permit first would be applied for. And there could be multiple development permits and multiple building permits on this development over time, similar as we see in other large-scale developments like this. So right now, we're not putting any requirements in here for site plan agreements or anything, or development agreements. We're basically saying this kind of development can go forward with the rezoning approved. So the key time for the public would be at the public hearing stage.
Thank you very much, Mr. Boone. Councillor Hotelling, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just have a question around the definition of park and where you include structures under 20 square meters in area, accessory structures ancillary to main use and infrastructure necessary for the safe and accessible use of land. And I see the comment that says all they're going to do is put hiking trails, putting greens, and fairways. So my question is, within the flood hazard zone, do we already allow structures at all? Because it only says existing dwellings currently. So do we need to have structures in the definition is kind of where I'm getting.
Mr. Boone?
Yeah, Your Worship, back to Councillor Hoteling, the reason we decided to define structures within the flood hazard zone is often there's need for a maintenance building or a pump house. So again, we're restricting it to the 20 square meters. We would probably give consideration to a small washroom, an accessible washroom, so that's why we put the words accessible in there. Because often on the golf course, you may, obviously, between hole 1 and 18, there may be a need to have a washroom facility, but we're limiting it in size because of the flood hazard. Now, if they're outside the flood hazard zone, then they will apply for a permit. They could be larger. So if they said wanted a larger washroom after hole 9 with a small canteen or something, that needs to be outside the flood hazard zone.
Okay.
Is that, Your Worship?
Yep. Councillor Hoteling, are you fine? Any more questions?
I mean, I just wonder why we're allowing new structures in flood hazard zones, but that's my comment. I guess I'll leave it at that.
Thank you very much. Councillor Redmond?
So you don't have to look it up, on page 53, it tells us there's 3,844.2 acres in the area.
There we go. Councillor Strong, I think you have your answer now. 458.
One pit's quite large.
That's right.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Gould.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a quick question on looking at this map with the 18 holes on it, trying to figure out which area is in the flood area zone, or do we?
So, Your Worship, back to
Go ahead,
Deputy
Mr. Brown,
Mayor.
sorry.
Yeah. I'll look to, if you look at the map, you can see there's an outline in a lighter blue.
Yep.
So the lighter blue is the overlay of the flood hazard. What's a little tricky with our mapping is that the flood hazard zone is an overlay. So the prime zone for this land is the rural resource, but then the flood hazard zone actually goes over top of that. So the area you can see in the light blue that's outlined, that is the flood hazard zone laying over the overall property, which is actually zoned rural resource. So the flood hazard zone is a specialized zone, so it actually applies. So the land essentially has two zones. So, and we have to be very careful when we oversee flood hazard, which is why we're being very particular and very specific on the size of structures that can go within the flood hazard zone.
Yep. So it's the opposite end of the residential area then?
Yeah. No, and the conversation we've had with the applicant, Your Worship, back to the Deputy Mayor, is that the homes would be on a higher elevation because we wouldn't permit new dwellings in this particular area because of the flood hazard zone. So,
Perfect. Thank
yeah.
you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? Go ahead, Councillor Lockhart.
I had a question, just, there's a road, I had a few calls on this, and people telling me this road has been there forever, and but is it owned, I wanted to find out if the road, and I can talk to you later about it, if the road is owned by the Braggs, or if this is a right-of-way road.
Yep. Your Worship, back
Go
to
ahead,
Councillor
Mr. Boone.
Lockhart. Ripley Road, number, that's it. And I can't remember, it's number 2 or number 3, there's a few. The road does go through the property. It's our understanding it's a private road that has been utilized, by the public in some cases. There's a river crossing there near the fire hall. We actually drove across the bridge to it. I didn't have to hold the CAO's hand, but he was okay, but we got across it. So I think I was probably as nervous as anybody. But so all joking aside, Councillor, the road and the ability to utilize it, that would be aligned with what the owner would have put in place from a legal perspective. So right now it shows it's private on their land. And my understanding is that there would be some work done, and the CEO might recall this conversation, so if he remembers a little bit more detail than I, that would be great, he can jump in. But the idea would be, I think they're looking at some of the trails maybe pushed up more where the power line is, and would follow the right-of-way for Nova Scotia Power that goes through there, because obviously you can't build under the power line. So, so there were some conversations about allowing the trails to move up So not to block access, but maybe relocate some access, if that makes sense. Correct?
Okay, everybody, any more questions? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary minded, the motion is carried. Thank you very much, Mr. Boone. 5.5, first reading of the bylaw to amend the land use bylaw 25-06 to rezone multiple PIDs adjacent to Fox Harbor Resort. Mr. Boone, you now have the floor.
Thank you, Worship. Just waiting for my computer to catch up. So, Your Worship, I might be showing some sweat, not because of the questions, just because I'm a little under the weather, so I just thought I should qualify that. And the reason I'm drinking my water. Thank you. So, Your Worship, again, a first reading application, so the first opportunity for council to see this project. This is an expansion to the Fox Harbor Resort. So, as you may be aware, I had the privilege of hearing a presentation. Fox Harbor just finishing and celebrating its 25th year of operation. So at this point, a lot of development's been happening at the property over the last 25 years. And as you're aware, a lot of new residential developments happened even more so in the last 5 years. Our team has been working diligently with Fox Harbor and their builders to keep that on track and to work diligently. So this is a rezoning application because Fox Harbor Resorts have acquired some additional parcels, that are now in their name, but those parcels are zoned agricultural. So they've had these properties for a period of time, but now they want to start bringing them into the overall development. And to do that, they want to look to bring these properties into the same zoning to give that flexibility of development and to integrate some of the services and some of the amenities that they have at Fox Harbor. So this one, Councillor, is the one I remember. It was 239 acres of the 4 parcels together. 3 are to the left on the screen and 1 to the right, or looking west and east. So the proposed development is an expansion. There are 4 PIDs, a little easier on you this time, Your Worship, when we do the motion, but 4 PIDs, and the change is from agricultural to commercial recreation, and essentially it's the expansion of the resort. So a couple of things that are going to happen, we just kind of zoomed in here so you can see in a little bit more detail. The agricultural zone will change to the commercial rec. Just want to be able to zoom in a little bit more. You can see in the middle section, you can see the residential lots highlighted in white that now exist in the main access into the resort, kind of up the center of that big PID that's currently commercial recreation zone. At this point, there's a couple of key things that they want to do. They want to move their service entrance to the back of the resort and take out the service entrance they have now off Fox Harbor Road and bring it into the rear, but also allow them to make some continued changes on some of the golf courses and the golf holes. So we're going to, next slide, Peters, sorry. So a couple of things here. This is just one of the first concepts. So to the far extreme right or east of the development is Beach Chair Road. And this is an opportunity for them to create some more residential lots to the right. So the concept plan to the left is just an overview of the new road that would be proposed to go in and new residential lots. And then these will kind of wind and twist through the new holes at the golf course that when this air photo was taken were still under construction. It's my understanding a few of those golf holes are getting ready to be completed and actually open. So this would be 29 new residential lots would be part of the enhanced development. Infrastructure to support it. They already have the existing clubhouse and the restaurants. Some of the other land that they would bring forward on this would also increase their hiking trails and access, as I mentioned, to the service road would change. So implications overall, financial implications, no doubt that Fox Harbor is one of our largest, if not our largest, taxpayer when it comes to taxation. Further increase in the number of units that could be developed here will result in increase in our taxation. We are starting to see a number of folks stay in Fox Harbor year-round, so it could increase immigration and migration into the area. And obviously, it stimulates the local economy to have more development in the area. And it's my understanding as part of the overall development They're looking at creating a restaurant that would be on the outside of the development and would be open to all of the public. So essentially across from where their winery, or sorry, not their winery, their vineyard is, that where they create their own wines through partnership with Yost Winery. From environmental implication, obviously, all the construction goes through the process when it's public access to the main road for the private roads, but all the private roads get designed and go through our subdivision process, and those plans do get reviewed by our Director of Public Works, Mr. Wakress. Environment looks at this as a holistic approach. There is an existing sewer treatment plant that services Fox Harbor. So we have asked and have received confirmation that the expansion meets with the requirements in the operating permit that they have in place. And we will monitor that as new developments come forward on these overall properties that get rezoned. So community engagement, again, similar to the last discussion, if council approves first reading, a public hearing would be duly advertised as per the MGA. We'll place notices on the website as well as do one notice in the paper, and we will put a planning notice on the property. So, Your Worship, unless there's specific questions, we'll get into a little bit more detail at the public hearing, and happy to answer any questions, and a few less PIDs here for you this time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Boone. The recommended motion is that council approve first reading of the bylaw to amend the land use bylaw 25-06 to rezone PID numbers 2517-1232, 2546-6319, 2548-9733, 2517-1471, adjacent to Fox Harbor Resort, from agricultural zone to commercial recreation, and to schedule a public hearing. Do I give a motion to approve that? Moved by Councillor Redmond, seconded by Councillor Fromm. Any questions or comments on this? Councillor Redmond.
I think it's phenomenal that we're getting all of this development, but I am just throwing up a red flag in regards to our local fire department. This is adding extra strain on what they have for equipment to handle some of the, it's going to add a strain on the fire department. I think that should be kept in the back of Fox Harbor's mind, that maybe they can help with a little bit of equipment on site, et cetera.
Your Worship, back to Councillor Redmond. As probably in advance of the public hearing, I will converse with our Director of Protective Services. But we normally review fire services and have those conversations with Al, just to make sure that the understanding is what's there is adequate. So I can't speak to it because it's not my department, but I will ask the question in advance of the public hearing.
Thank you very much, Mr. Boone.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
He moved up.
First and only time.
There you go.
I know that it is a big concern to that fire department.
Okay.
Thank you.
Duly noted. Thank you very much. Anyone else have a comment? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Boone. It's been a long afternoon for you, and I know you're feeling under the weather, so I would advise you to take the rest of the day off. Item number 6, business issues. There are no business issues for today's meeting.
Thanks.
Information item number 7, council recognition. 711, Councillor Lee, you have the floor.
Your Worship, thank you. Yeah, so we're going to recognize two sisters from District 7, Claire and Kenzie Ackison. Claire goes first for playing a key role in securing the 24-25 Under-13 AAA New Brunswick Provincial and Atlantic Championship. She was named Defenseman of the Year for U13 AAA Hockey New Brunswick, an honorable mention to her teammate and defensive partner, Marissa Delahunt, for her contributions in this outstanding season. We'll touch on her sister Kenzie. Claire's sister earned a bronze medal in intermediate girls single badminton at the Nova Scotia Provincials and was honored as a grade 9 female athlete of the year at Parsbo Regional High in 2024. And I just want to say congratulations to both of them. Their community is proud.
Congratulations to both of those. Thank you. Well done. Motion to adjourn. Whoop. Moved by Deputy Mayor Gould. Oh, sorry, do you have a comment,
Yeah,
Mr.
yeah.
Lockhart? Okay, before Mr. Gould gets in motion?
Yeah.
I will let you go.
Yeah, thank you, and I just want to say, I know the Atkinson girls are also very good motorcycle riders. And I wanted to also recognize today two lovely ladies from Spring Hill, Mary Vickery and Liza Lobo, who on the weekend both just finished their level 1 firefighter course and passed, and so we have two more level 1 firefighters in Spring Hill, so congratulations.
Wow, very good. Congratulations to them. Counselor Strong?
Yes, we just also had. Another gentleman, a new person moved into the community a couple of years ago, him and his wife, and he just completed his level 1 in Pugwash over the weekend, so,
Excellent.
good for Mike.
Yep.
Mike Walsh.
Good news for the fire service. Perfect, thank you very much. Anyone else? I'll now ask for a motion to adjourn. Moved by Deputy Mayor Gould, we are now adjourned. Thank you very much, folks.